Director of the Carnegie Middle East Center based in Beirut. Good to have you with us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us at such a difficult time for Lebanon. On top of the collapsed currency, the coronavirus pandemic, the food shortages, how much worse has this explosion made things for the country?
Multiply this by as much as you want. Thank you for having me. I mean, this even without the economic crisis and the coronavirus, the scale of the devastation is just catastrophic for this country. The damage is spread wide, as you saw from the videos and from the reports of your correspondents in Beirut. It was felt 20 kilometers away. There was actual debris 20 kilometers away. So when you add this, the massive loss in life, injuries, destruction of property, when you add this to in a country that already was facing an accelerating economic collapse, already the World Bank had estimated that 50% of the population had fallen below the poverty line. The currency had lost close to 80% of its value. The prices of basic goods were shooting through the roof. We're in an inflationary mode, moving into a hyperinflation. The costs, I mean, in June alone, I think inflation was around 90%. Things like sugar, rice, flour were quickly becoming unaffordable to a large portion, cross-section of the Lebanese. You add this to yesterday's catastrophe where people who had lost their livelihoods, their incomes, they've seen their pensions disappear because of the collapse of the exchange rate, or their incomes are frozen in banks and they can't get to them. All of a sudden, these people have also lost their homes now, or they've lost their loved ones. And I can't even begin to describe the scale of the catastrophe that has fell on this city.
And politically, Lebanon's government was incapable of coming up with some kind of consensus. There was political infighting, a lot of wrangling over the economic reforms that it had to bring in, talking to international investors. Is there any chance that this disaster will provide some unity, that the government and political factions will pull together?
I sincerely doubt it. We are already seeing the blame game already playing out. The concern now is that they might try and use a few people from the port as scapegoats to avoid accountability. The entire political leadership is accountable for what happened yesterday. As your reporter indicated, this did not, I mean, the three tons of ammonium nitrate did not just appear overnight. They've been in the port, they've been stored in the port for the past almost 5 to 6 years. So the fact that they were left there, despite repeated requests, tells you something, tells you about how badly this country has been mismanaged. So no, I don't see the political elite coming together. This current government is incapable of managing this crisis. It wasn't able to manage the economic crisis, and it certainly won't be able to manage this current crisis. It's incapable of leading.
So what do you think that means for the current government? Do you think that this disaster could precipitate the collapse of Lebanon's government?
Well, in any other country, a government would have collapsed, would have actually resigned for far less than what we're seeing. What I'm expecting in the coming few days is that the anger that people, now that they're coming out a bit of the shock, there is real palpable anger on the ground. People are furious at what has happened. It's going to be very difficult for this political elite to sweep it under the rug and just say, okay, we're holding 2 or 3 people accountable. So I think there's going to be more and more pressure on the government to resign, perhaps on more than the government. I'm hearing that quite a few of the groups that are operating under the umbrella of the October 19th revolution, they're trying to come together with a broad and unified list of demands that goes beyond the government resignation to also call for the resignation of others. but to also call for the appointment of an independent and trustworthy cabinet, one that first and foremost the Lebanese will trust, and then the international community also will trust. The level of this trust and this government and this political elite is such that the Lebanese are begging the international community, they're asking the international community not to give any humanitarian aid to Lebanon through the government. They would like the UN to manage this. They would like to have it go directly to the NGOs, the amazing NGOs that are on the ground and have been on the ground since day one of the crisis, not just the catastrophe, trying to help people, make sure that they have enough food, make sure that they have enough medicine. I mean, the social solidarity that has emerged in the past few months has been remarkable. And I think this is where the international community really needs to focus when it comes to humanitarian support. And this is a demand by a broad cross-section of the Lebanese. They want that support to go directly to the people and not through a government or politicians who are likely to pocket some of this support.
Maha, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Maha Yahya there in Beirut.